Right then, welcome back to another vid. This one is the first Samurai on the Commodore Amiga. As per usual, I'm going to let the intro play out, and then once that is finished, I'll do some gameplay and a bit of commentary. Okay, so that's pretty decent music. Well, I thought it was, but then that was pretty indicative of the Commodore Amiga in general. I think 9 times out of 10, maybe that's a bit generous, but let's just go with it anyway. 9 times out of 10, the Amiga music was really good, and I think that was no exception. But it does make me laugh because that actual song, that intro, goes on for, well, I don't know, probably about 20 minutes, if not. In fact, it's like an infinite, continuous loop, so I had to kind of fade it out. And it's different beats that they keep putting in, so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'm not going to Google it, I'm not that interested, but it would be kind of interesting, I guess, to figure out how long that actual song goes on for, because I think I only played about 4 minutes there, so yeah, be thankful, I guess, that I didn't put it on for longer, because the video would have lasted about an hour. So anyway, the first Samurai, as you can see, it's a side-scrolling fighter, but obviously has elements of a platform game to it, and it's really clever, and I think it brings a lot of new things to the table. Now, I will say straight away, and maybe it's just a case of, you know, you've got to get used to it, I did find the controls a little bit fiddly, and I've played this game before, obviously, you know, I used to have it as a kid, so, you know, it's not like I'm unfamiliar with it. But going back to it, I did find the controls a little clunky, but not to the point of, you know, not wanting to play it or to knock it off or anything. It was just mildly frustrating on occasions, you know, just timing the hit detection, I guess. But nothing too bad, nothing bad enough to want to, you know, stop me from playing the game or to ruin the nostalgia. So the basic premise to the story is you control this guy, the first samurai, oddly enough, and his master was killed by the Demon King. And with the last breath of the master, he summoned the Wizard Mage being this all-powerful guy. He's a good guy, of course, and in a way to get the Demon King back, but because the Demon King is afraid of the Wizard Mage, the Demon King hurled himself into the future to get out of the way. But wanting revenge, obviously the young samurai wants revenge for the death of his master, so he contacts the Wizard Mage and says, well, help me out here. You know, he might not have said those words, maybe he did. But he said, look, help me out, fast forward me or transport me to the future, you know, to catch up with the Demon King guy, so he can get his revenge. And that's what these kind of screens, this scenery represents. It's kind of supposed to be futuristic. I think I did read somewhere in a magazine, it was the year 2323. So it looks a bit primitive for 2323, but I guess it's that twist of it being Japan as well, and Japan being quite a basic kind of country in many senses, or when it comes to like the rural parts of it anyway. Obviously it's kind of at the forefront of technology in the big cities, but in rural terms, I guess this is meant to be a representation of future Japan. But anyway, the scenery does change, of course. You get to see kind of rooftops, and I think there's a tube station somewhere, like city landscapes and all the rest of it. So it does get better than this. This is just the first level, which incidentally I'm going to play in its entirety. I won't do any more than that. I don't want to reveal any, you know, spoilers in regards to showing further levels, but I will show the first level. So let me talk a little bit about the HUD at the bottom of the screen and explain what's there and what isn't. Well, no, actually, I won't explain what isn't there. That'll be ridiculous. I'll be there all day saying what isn't there. But what is there? So on the bottom left, there is the arm, and I just took a little bit of a hit there from that moving rock thing. So basically, just like any power gauge on any game, when you take a hit, that strength kind of goes down, as you can see it there, it diminishes. When you pick up food, it obviously goes back up again. Banana there, handily lying around, and fruit baskets with some pork chops, bit of carrot going on. Is that a watermelon or whatever it is? So when you pick these things up, it regenerates your health. On the, or to its immediate right, there's an axe. That's what I'm currently carrying. Obviously, I'm holding a sword. That's your primary kind of weapon. But I've also picked up an axe and I can use that one as well. In the centre, obviously, that's my score ticking away, and underneath, that's how many lives you've got. I think it's preset at 5 anyway. So the first level is pretty easy once you figure out where everything is. But it is quite a difficult game in all honesty, and especially remembering where things are. That can be quite tricky. Not remembering where enemies are, because they always seem to be in the same place, but remembering your way out of certain tunnels, it can actually get tricky. On the right-hand side, we can see a bell. Now, the bell I'm going to use now, and you would have seen, and there he is again, the Wizard Mage. Now, his face will appear every time you could need help, and you may have seen on the right-hand side there, you see where the fire was coming down. I used the bell, now I no longer have it in my inventory there in the HUD, and when you use it, and you can't just randomly use it, you'll be prompted in the early levels to use it. Later on, I think you've kind of got to use your brain a bit, you've got to think, but in the early levels it prompts you to use it, and so the fire disappeared and Mage brought the water down, which enables me now to walk through that, and I'll do that in a second. So, yeah, when you pick up a bell, like I say, it summons the Wizard Mage and he helps you out. And on the right-hand side, that's your courage. And basically, whenever you hit an enemy or kill an enemy, then the sword kind of goes up. If you take hits, then the sword goes down. So, yeah, it's all obviously about keeping the left-hand side of the bar as high as possible, because that's your health, and keeping the sword high, because that gives you power. Now, that thing that I've just come out of there is like a health pot, and they're scattered around the land. You may have seen 2 or 3 of them already. And basically, whenever you die, or if you pick up like a teleportation thing, you will transport back to the pot which you've made active. So it basically stops you or prevents you from having to troll all the way back at the start of a level. So it's quite good, really, in regards to saving time, ultimately. In fact, I should say as well that when the energy bar goes down on the sword, it means that you lose the sword and the ability to throw knives and wield the axe and all that kind of stuff, and you're just armed with your fists and a kick, which is, I mean, it's effective, but it's kind of pretty useless as well. And there's treasure chests scattered around as well, and you may have heard in the background it kind of plays that Hallelujah music. And there's lots of like digitized speech in the game as well, which is pretty clever. The music's a little bit odd at times, not the main menu music, that's pretty good. But the inclusion of all these kind of choir chants is, I mean, I guess it adds to the atmosphere, but it is, I don't know, it's a little weird when you first hear it, but it works. Graphically, I think it's brilliant. I think it's really polished. I love the effects of the waterfall there to the left, the fire, the way the wizard mage appears, like the hologram, it looks good. The sword shines as well, and for 1991, I think it's, yeah, a very polished game. The only gripe I've got, and it is a very minor quibble, is, as I touched upon at the start, it's just the occasional hit detection is questionable, but maybe that's just me. Maybe a good workman doesn't blame his tools, I don't know. But the hardest thing of all, and it's a good thing in a way, it's the fact that it's challenging. It's a challenging game. Some people may be put off by that. You know, the enemies, I guess as a result maybe of the hit detection, can be at times a little bit difficult to kill, but also little things like the spikes there, you don't quite know when they're going to come. I guess it's just memorization, isn't it? You know, so once you familiarize yourself with the maps, everything becomes that little bit easier. But it's a challenging game. And what I'm doing here for the record, to finish this level, this first level, spoiler alert, just spoilers for this first level, you've got to collect 4 logs, 4 wooden logs. I think I've collected 1 or 2 so far, I'm not sure, but I'm on my way to getting another one here. And then once you collect those, and you'll see it towards the end, you then summon, again, the wizard mage to help you out, and he will lay those logs across a waterfall, which will enable you to walk across it safely. Because if you don't have the logs there, then you'll just fall down and lose a life. There's no way of completing the level. So you've got to find 4 logs. Now, I think there's probably 5 or 6 logs scattered around. So, you know, you're given a degree of choice. There's one of them I've just picked up. You're given a degree of choice which logs you pick up, but some are easier to get than others. Some are hidden, and, I mean, there's a bell on the top left there. How you get that, I haven't got a clue. Whether it's just there just to tease you, or whether it's like a hidden wall where you've got to somehow knock it down. That's kind of very old school there, isn't it? But it's a nice little touch. But yeah, so that's a basic premise. So that's what we're on the hunt for. We're on the hunt. And by the way, that thing that was kind of sparkling there, that's like another teleport. That will take you back to another part of the map. Usually to a hidden area. I guess maybe you could have took me to that room with the bell, who knows? But I ignored that anyway. So I'm now going back to ultimately find another log. And when I've got those logs, I will then summon the wizard mage, which will then lead me on to the ender level boss. And I think every level has an ender level boss, and it's an old school one as well, you know, where this big monster kind of comes up and you defeat him and all the rest of it. So you probably would have saw as well, I just picked up some, it resembled kind of like a shuriken, I don't know what the official name, like kind of a bomb or whatever it is, and it's there in the HUD to the right of the arm, like this kind of ball with spikes on. And I haven't used it yet. I think, do I use it now? I'm not sure. I'll use it in a bit anyway. But what that does, it kind of hovers around me and it destroys anything in its path. I will say that, believe it or not, it is incredibly easy to get lost, even though it's a kind of an early game, you know, 1991, like I say, it's easy to get lost in these caves. It's so well designed, or frustratingly designed, depends which way you want to look at it. And that's why it's crucial that you do activate these pots that which are scattered around the maps, like this one here on the left-hand side. Because if you don't, you're going to have a long trek back to get to where you want to get to. Now, we're coming up to a bit here which took me absolutely ages to figure out, and it should be obvious. Ultimately, all you have to do is run through here and smash the rocks, but every time I was doing it, it was taking off all my health. Now, look at the bottom left-hand corner there. See how the health just diminishes? And every single time it was getting me, and I thought, well, what the hell did you do? But ultimately, it was just a case of repetition, and eventually, I got through it. I collected the log that I needed. I also picked up the health potion, which enables me to be regenerated from that pot, which I'd previously activated. So that can set me on my way now to the latter part of the level. But first I'm going to get eaten by some spiders, but I will have my revenge. any second now. So yeah, it reactivates me from there, which is handy, as I keep saying, rather than having to trek back from another part of the map. So you've got to be careful and be sensible about, you know, where you choose to regenerate from. So that's that. I will get these spiders. I'm looking for the last log. That's somewhere, where is it? I think it's on the left-hand side. Yeah, it's going to appear on the left-hand side, this last log. There it is. Good timing. And so I'm going to collect that. There's an axe there. I don't think I use the axe against the end-level guardian, but it's there if you want to. I guess it makes things a little bit easier. My health is already regenerated, but I guess I just picked that up because it's there. Look at this. Backward swipe on a wasp in your face. Easy. So then it's just a case of navigating around and, you know, the kind of platform elements sections of the game. So another thing I should say, actually, is when you regenerate or choose to activate a pot like I just did there, it takes away some of your strength on the right-hand side from your sword. It's a bit of a trade-off. It's a way of saying, well, if you want to save your progress, some of your courage will be lost. But of course, you can just gain courage easily by killing enemies. So it is a trade-off, but it's not a problem. So I've put down the 4 logs, or I summoned the wizard who put down the 4 logs. Stupidly picked up a potion there. I kind of forgot what it did, and it just took me back a few screens. So the whole section here is a bit of a waste of time. Schoolboy error. Now, if I'd have collected 3 logs, I could still summon the wizard, and he would put 3 logs down, but I couldn't get by without the 4, so I'd just have to go back, collect another bell to summon him, and then I'll obviously collect the other log. Look at that warning sign as well. Watch it, man, says this creature. So it's the end-of-level guardian. It's just a case of killing him. Look at my energy on the left-hand side. It's ridiculous. Nearly gone, but I do manage to get him and regenerate my health. So yeah, to sum this game up, I've got really strong nostalgic feelings for the first Samurai, and the sequel as well, and I will cover that eventually. I think the animation is brilliant, I think the sound is great, I think the graphics are fantastic, and for a 1991 game, yeah, I think it's brilliant. I say one of my favourites. You've got to remember I've got hundreds of favourites, but it's definitely up there, and it does come recommended. Slight hit detection issues, maybe, but not enough to ruin the game, and I love the fact that it's not just a side-scrolling kind of fighter. Obviously it's a platformer as well, but it also brings a lot of puzzle elements into the game. It really makes you think and to plan ahead and use you know, a lot of strategy. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. In terms of rarity and value, it's cheap and it's common. In saying that, you'll probably look on eBay now and there won't be one, but there should be. And I do recommend getting it. And yeah, thanks for watching, and maybe I'll cover the sequel eventually. Well, I definitely will. But until then, until my next video for that matter, whether that's tomorrow, next week, next month, whenever it is, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.